workshop, Entrepreneurship in Education, workshops on restorative justice circles, conflict management through mediation, classroom management, understanding children's temperament. And after lunch, we'll be looking at how do parents in the under-resourced communities sustain their children's education. Also, the role of the arts in influencing economic sustainability in education. The role of TVET in fostering economic sustainability in education. And we end with a panel discussion, financial sustainability in education. So a lot we're addressing today is dealing with sustainability, especially in the area of finance. And so I know people will have a lot of questions, and I'm looking forward to hear from the various speakers throughout the day. I just want us to, as we commit this time and this day, I just want us to pray and commit it to the Lord. I'm going to ask Richard DeLissa, who is a board member of Operation Save Jamaica, to just come and pray at this time as we commit the day to God.
Good morning. Let's bow our heads, please. Our God and our Father, you are the one that we acknowledge who is above all. And so we come and we humble our hearts. You have given us the abilities, the academic excellence, the experiences, the insights. But as your word says, unless the Lord builds a house, they labor in vain that build it. We invite you to help us to not just be stimulated by the thoughts and the ideas shared, but that it will reach within us at a place that will move us to action, to appropriate, wise, strategic action that will help make a difference, that we will understand our roles and our parts in expanding the vision or in explaining how we're going to achieve their objectives. Lord, today, may the speakers in their sharing be anointed, be enabled to convey and to explain how we can begin in a more earnest and collaborative way to achieve the objectives that you desire in education in Jamaica, to change the landscape. We are not intimidated, Lord, or overawed by the situation, because we have a God who is able to make a difference. So we commit this time to you and ask you to do what we can't do for ourselves, to help us to make a difference. In Jesus' name, amen.
One of the things that we believe in as an organization, Operation Save Jamaica, is that everybody has to play a role in this transformation process. And, you know, we have the Ministry of Education represented here, and I think it's very important for us to partner with them as well to see what needs to happen in Jamaica, and to partner with them as they seek to serve our nation in the area of education. Okay, at this time, we're going to go straight ahead into our first session of today, and it's on implementing positive discipline parenting education in Jamaica. And we have Penny Caballo-Smith coming all the way from the UK to make this presentation and to be with us and to look at how she and others from the diaspora can partner with us in Jamaica to see our education transformed. Penny Caballo-Smith is the founder and director of the UK-based social enterprise Future Think, which upskills the economical disadvantaged for new jobs emerging in the fast-changing global market. A qualified parenting educator, and a significant part of Penny's work focuses on empowering parents to help children develop the skills and mindsets needed to succeed in the 21st century. A University of the West Indies law graduate, Penny qualified as an attorney at Trinidad's Sir Hugh Woodins Law School, then graduated from the London School of Economics and Political Science with a master's degree in international business law. She pursued a career in KPMG London's tax practice, specializing in corporate and international tax, mergers and acquisitions, and knowledge management before moving on to an advised non-profit organization and social enterprises. This eventually led to setting up Future Think in February 2011. Penny is a fellow of the Royal Society for the Encouragement of the Arts, Manufacturers and Commerce, and in 2012, winner of the Financial Times Research Competition on International Financial Regulation. At this time, I just want us to all welcome Penny Smith as she comes to share with us this morning. Let's welcome her.
The fact of the matter is, researchers all over the world have recognized that there are children born into the toughest of environments to pour on schooled parents in Africa, Asia, North America, Europe, and somehow those kids, against the odds, they're achieving in school, they are resisting the guns and the gangs, they are growing into capable, responsible, happy adults, and a lot of money has been spent worldwide trying to figure out why is it. What are the teachers and parents of those children doing? And in the next few minutes, we're going to have a quick look, a very quick look, at what exactly are those teachers and parents doing. We will see that we know the answers to the problems. What we don't really know is how to implement. Execution is the issue here. Developing sustainable programs, that's the problem. And we will see why we personally at Future Think believe that positive discipline education that's coming out of the US, that is the right organization that can help Jamaica develop sustainable programs. And thank you very much. I think we have the PowerPoint. Anyway, we go ahead. So we know what works. What these researchers have found is that these parents and teachers, they tend to know the strategies that develop a particular mindset in children. We heard a lot yesterday about mindsets, and that's what exactly all these researchers have found. They manage to get the children to believe that education is important, to have high expectations, and to believe that they are capable of learning. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we can roll it forward a little bit. Yeah. Right, onto mindsets, right? So that's the first thing. They know the strategies to do that. The next thing that these teachers know, if we could, next slide. The next thing that these teachers know, they recognize, not just teachers but parents, that the key is to meet emotional needs of children. They recognize that all children have certain critical emotional needs, and if these needs are not met in a positive way, these children will try to meet those needs one way or the other, and they might try in very dysfunctional ways. So these parents and teachers are sensitive to the fact that they have to find ways and means of meeting the crucial emotional needs that all children have, and in fact, everybody has. So you might be asking yourself, well, what exactly are these emotional needs? And we parenting educators, mostly in the UK and US, but elsewhere as well, there's a particular way we have of communicating these emotional needs that parents absolutely love. And we call it the crucial 4 C's, because it's very easy to remember and very easy to explain. So the first need is to connect. All children need to connect. They need to feel as if they belong. If they don't feel as if they belong, they get insecure. And it's that insecurity that plays out in a lot of dysfunctionality. Secondly, they need to feel capable. And if you're listening carefully, you'll realize I keep talking about how children feel, because what matters is how children feel on the inside and what they actually believe. That's what really matters. So these parents and teachers, they seem to employ good strategies to make children feel capable, to feel competent. And this is what develops self-control and reliance. Thirdly, they seem to know how to make children feel as if they count, as if they're significant, as if they're valuable, that if they're not in the room, they'll be missed, as if they have a contribution to make. Because when children feel that way, this is what makes them want to contribute, to be helpful. When they feel insignificant, when they feel they don't matter, that they're not valuable, that's when they feel a very deep hurt, and that hurt plays out often in revenge, in trying to hurt others. That's where a lot of violence comes in. And fourthly, these teachers seem to know how to give children courage, to encourage children. And this is really important because life is hard. Children need to develop resilience. But they seem to understand what strategies to use to make children feel that if they fail, it's okay. They could come back. If they make mistakes, it's okay. Mistakes are stepping stones to success. You know, they are optimistic, they are hopeful, they are resilient. These parents and teachers seem to know that. And the fact is, there are poor, unschooled parents in several countries who are meeting emotional needs much more effectively than a lot more affluent parents. We have that problem in England. In England, we have a lot of Caribbean children who have every physical need met, but emotionally they're very poor. They do not feel as if they connect in the society. They don't feel capable. They don't feel as if they count, and they have no courage. They opt out. They prefer not to try than to, that's how we are. It's the reason why 50% of 16 to 24-year-old black kids in England, they are not in education, training. It's black boys, really, not in education, training, or employment. That's 50%. And it's really because these needs are missing. And very smart parents, sometimes they take the child, they'll send them back to the Caribbean, and the transformation is almost miraculous. In a very short period of time, study after study has shown these children start to feel connected, they start to feel capable, they start to count, and they start to perform. So that's a challenge we face. So the issue is, we know what works. We know mindsets work. We know meeting emotional needs work. The research is conclusive about that. The real challenge is this. From the time a child is born until the child is 18 years old, on a global level, this is the global average of time that child spends in school, on a global average level, is 13%. If achievement has to do with meeting emotional needs and changing mindsets, how could schools really do that with only 13% of the time? So schools have to find a way of tapping into that 87%, either through parents, through other organizations. The fact is, schools are not enough. That's a fact. And research after research after research in several parts of the world show that families are actually more important, not even just as important, but more than schools for children's achievement. So that's a very big challenge that we have. So we have to reach out to parents. The next challenge we have, though, is it came out yesterday. There are a lot of programs around, and a lot of programs or projects are quite successful. It's sustainability. How do we develop programs that are, long-term, impactful, and sustainable so that they could really make a difference? That's the issue that we have right now. And I believe, and we at Future Think believe, that the Positive Discipline Association out of the USA, that they are the best placed to help Jamaica develop long-term, sustainable programs that will really make a major impact on achievement through educating parents. Why do we believe that? We like their approach. I myself was trained with them, so I know what their approach is like. They are very experiential, and parents have a lot of role play, and they feel on an emotional level what the children are feeling. And so they learn not just intellectually, they learn emotionally. And what we really love about them is that they don't give parents answers. They don't tell parents what strategies to use. They simply facilitate the process. So parents in different cultures, different communities, they develop their own strategies for meeting emotional needs. So that is why this sort of parenting education, it works in every culture, every community, irrespective of educational level, irrespective of income, irrespective of background, because the parents find solutions to their own problems. That's what we really love about it. And what we really love is that they also train parents in parents helping parents problem-solving surgeries. So parents are actually empowered when the parent educator is out of the picture. The parent is empowered to solve their own problems, but also to solve the problems of other parents in the community. And the thing we love most about them is this. It is actually a very clever way of introducing therapy to the parents themselves and to the entire community. Because along the way, parents attending parenting classes, the penny kind of drops that actually, the reason I am dysfunctional is because I don't have crucial emotional needs met. And they are able then to analyze which of the crucial C emotional needs they don't have met. And then they start very naturally to develop strategies to meet their own emotional needs. So they themselves almost get self-therapy. And then it has this sort of knock-on effect in their families, in the communities. The very same strategies that they use with their children, that they're taught to use, the penny drops with them that actually these are conflict resolution strategies. These are problem-solving strategies that I could use with my spouse, that I could use with my neighbor, I could use with everybody. So it has this knock-on effect. And it's like a clever way of providing group therapy and individual therapy to parents. That's what we really love about it. Evidence. Oh, is that there? There is, research is at an early stage, okay? I wouldn't pretend that there's a lot of research about impact. But this is where Jamaica could really help. The Positive Discipline Association, they do have a research arm. So if you go with them, they will help you to design studies to measure impact. And the great thing is, because they're doing this thing all over the world, in both developed and developing countries, you will be able to learn from not just the experience of the USA, but the experience of Latin America, Egypt, the experience of places like Benin, which are doing incredible things with parents, very simply, very cost-effectively. You will have a lot to learn from. And not only that, I think Jamaica is in a great position to teach a lot. So as you develop your own studies and measure impact, I believe that you would have a major influence on black countries in particular, trying to do the very same thing. So I could see a win-win that way. But this is one bit of evidence that recently came out of Sacramento, a school that implemented positive discipline. And not only were achievement levels higher, but look at this, suspensions came down from 64 to 4 in each year, and vandalism was reduced from 24 to 2. It's quite dramatic, the impact it could have. Next one. The one thing I want to mention before we leave, there's one area I think that parenting education should be extended to, and this is the area of technology, because billions of dollars, literally billions, are being poured into education technology now. And, people are sort of dubious about it, but the evidence is now emerging that it is really powerfully helping children in underserved communities to raise achievement levels. In San Jose, California, there are tough inner-city schools now outperforming the schools in the wealthy districts because of the right educational software. So I think the parenting educator should also be trained, if you're doing that in Jamaica, to be able to advise parents as to the best educational software out there, how to manage the software, because there's no use having this powerful software if you don't understand how to manage, how to use it, because you can't just leave the children to it. You have to be able to guide them, guide the usage. But it is working, and there's real potential in there. And again, because a lot of money has been spent, You know, we in Jamaica don't have to spend money reinventing the wheel. A lot of analysis has already been done. It's about tapping into what's there. So, in summary, what can a parent do? They can change mindsets. The strategies are there. There's some powerful strategies to change mindset that work really effectively. That's what the parenting education can teach. You need to meet emotional needs, meet those crucial 4 C's. We need to engage and educate the parents. We need to somehow tap into the 87% of time that children don't spend in school up until age 18. It's impossible otherwise, I think. And for those of you who might be a bit skeptical, because I know there are a lot of people who feel, you know, all this thing about parenting classes, all these parents in the city schools, they're not going to want to come. They're not going to be interested. You know, they don't really care about their children's education. I just want Lorna to give her view for 1 minute about whether she thinks that parenting classes in this way, you know, if you have a parenting educator in each school and you have a parent center and parents solve each other's problems, do you think those things could work in Jamaica, Lorna?
Most definitely. I have seen the difference that it has made in my school with those parents that we have been able to bring into workshops. We have had them dramatize situations sometimes, showing the negative impact that their words and their actions have on these children. And many of them sit there crying because they will tell you that I didn't know better. I really didn't understand the things that I was saying were destructive and hurting my child this way. It happens constantly. I remember Pastor Bruce, we had some workshops up at Skyline or something like that, remember? And where they had several parenting workshops, and I was asked to come. And after 6 weeks, you should have heard the difference that these workshops had made, where parents had come in and they were saying, I thought that when I was embarrassing this child, I was just shaming them to do better, and I was just doing this, but they themselves didn't know any better. Remember, in the inner cities, most of the parents are very young ages themselves. They are frustrated. They don't know what to do. We can always tell when a child comes from a home where the parents is supportive, loving. I remember once, when we had a student, and he did very well, we called the mother in, and as soon as this child saw the mother, he started to run. That child was best student for the week. And I said to her, you need to give him a hug. A hug? What name, sir? And when they finally got together and hugged, they just wouldn't stop. It made such a difference in that child's behavior, simply because he now realized that he counted, he mattered, he got connected, he was no longer out there with the gangs. It really, really, really works, and I cannot emphasize it more, and I am very anxious to have some of these workshops come in. They'll come, just provide some refreshments and some food. Bring them in, and they will come, and you will see the difference. Thank you.
I just want to say, finally, what Lorna said there is what a lot of research has shown, actually, that when you have difficulty attracting parents from inner city environments, all you need to do is to serve food. Once you have food, they come. And once they come and they see, they buy into it. Just serve food. And I don't know if we have time for a couple of questions. 2 questions. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I think that the whole matter of parenting is so crucial in the educational arena. And so we hope that we'll be able to benefit from that organization as we seek to pull different organizations together and working together to better Jamaica in the different areas. So thank you, Mrs. Smith, and we trust that we'll be able to have a long-term relationship in developing a whole parenting portfolio in addressing the issues in Jamaica. At this time, we want to invite Dr. David Jordan, and we could spend a long time just reading about him. I know when he comes, he will share some of the stories. And I just want to read something briefly. Dr. David Jordan has served as president and CEO of the Seven Hills Foundation since July 1995. As president, he's responsible for the overall management of all Seven Hills Foundation Health and Human Services programs, which include over 150 clinics and other locations throughout Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Seven Hills Foundation and its operating affiliates employ over 3,000 professional staff with an operating budget of over 120 million US dollars. You can read the rest of his profile in your book, but at this time I want to give him as much time to share what he has with us this morning. So let's just welcome Dr. David Jordan. He has come all the way from the States to be with us.
Pastor Fletcher and Lorraine Cook, Dr. Lorraine Cook, I want to give special acknowledgement to them for inviting me. I first must begin with a mea culpa, an apology to a large extent. First of all, I'm not Jamaican. I'm an American. Secondly, I'm Caucasian, and I apologize for that. And so I immediately come to you with two deficits, which I will try as best as possible to ameliorate during the course of my presentation. If I don't succeed, then please excuse the hour I'm going to take of your very busy schedule. But I will try as best I can to offer a perspective that's drawn from experience in not only my own organization, but experience working with my students at university and in working in various countries throughout the globe. Very quickly, I want to thank again Reverend Fletcher for a brief bio, a quick edit. Seven Hills Foundation actually employs 3,900 employees with an operating budget as of this moment of about $175 million US. That has grown in the past 10 to 15 years from 100 employees and about a $3 million operating budget to scale. And I'm going to suggest some reasons for that during the course of the presentation, and certainly has nothing to do with my great height or finely coiffed hair. It has everything to do with planning and thoughtful strategy. I have done, over the past year, research as to what makes great universities and great colleges as part of my academic work. And so I've begun studying something in the US called the top 40 colleges and universities that change lives. These are universities and colleges in the United States that are not Harvard, and they're not MITs necessarily. They are generally smaller institutions, but are institutions who are universally recognized as having the greatest impact upon young people, upon our future, upon students in all disciplines, be it medicine or business or physics or music. 40 universities and colleges that are most identified as changing lives in America. And in that research, I've come to find three themes, three characteristics that somehow blend and make what these universities have become. Characteristics, attributes. And I want to posit my thoughts in that context. Okay. In the face of transformation driven by technological advancement, global and national economic uncertainties, and certainly environmental challenges, thoughtful leaders of institutions of higher learning have long recognized that being great today isn't necessarily good enough for tomorrow. To ensure a university or college legacy, school leadership must collaborate with its faculty, students, families, alumni, boards of directors, and the communities in which they are privileged to be located, to look more clearly at the core elements that define the school, that is, what makes that school unique and where the greatest opportunities lie for improvement. Even programs and curricula that seem appropriate now need to be continually re-examined to see if they will meet the needs of our students in the years ahead. By being open to change and questioning every assumption, and I'll give you a preview as to what I'm going to end my comments about, and I'll go back and read what I just read. By being open to change. Because at the end of my comments, I am going to suggest to you that colleges and universities, particularly those that serve and support our inner cities and urban areas, may want to consider re-examining our role and our responsibilities. By being open to change and questioning every assumption, colleges and universities need to build a roadmap to the future of higher education characterized by what I believe are three significant elements. First, innovative teaching and learning, employing inquiry and project-based learning as its core. Second, community engagement, which moves beyond service learning and requires transformational institutional leadership. Strong leaders willing to commit an institution to the community and move beyond the finely cut grass of this hollowed institutions that we work in. Particularly in urban communities where the needs of many are readily evident. Here in Kingston, not more than a mile from here, there are urban poor, desperate for hope, desperate for a chance. And today, we'll enjoy a fine meal, nice air conditioning, friendship, scholarship, things that the urban poor can only dream of. And third, my third element, by emphasizing global citizenship as an endemic aspect of all student learning. So let me briefly discuss these three elements and posit, for the sake of our discussion today, that entrepreneurial education in terms of the institution may be fundamentally described as a union of three aspects, these three aspects. I will attempt and I will try to draw together this model of entrepreneurial education to the potential, and I would propound the responsibility of local urban communities and the institutions of colleges, universities, and seminaries, improving the economic, social, and environmental circumstances of the communities in which they live. I am suggesting not only that universities teach students to be entrepreneurial and innovative in all academic disciplines, but even more fundamentally, I am calling for a new paradigm of the fundamental role of universities as a hub of innovation in addressing practical and important social ills for a community. So let me explain each further. Innovative teaching, employing inquiry, and project-based learning. It's long been held a fundamental aspect of higher education, but let me explain just briefly. Many of you are much more versed in this than I. The primary value of attending a college, university, or other similar institution of higher learning will always rest squarely on the academic experience achieved by those students. The most creative institutions that I've researched intuitively know that innovative teaching, which conjoins the didactic with the practical application, the classroom theory with practical application, is the most powerful form of learning. One of the founding fathers of the United States, Benjamin Franklin, captured this when he said, "Tell me, and I will forget. Teach me, and I may remember. Involve me, and I will learn." We are at a moment in time when the whole landscape of higher education is changing, even here in Jamaica. Driven by broad technological, societal, and economic shifts, colleges and universities are being challenged to reimagine how we deliver education to our students. What might such a reimagining look like? For most adults and professors, I might add, their educational experience was primarily academic in a literal sense. Classroom lectures, along with term papers and occasional projects where students worked individually or in groups to create presentations. So I learned. Today, however, innovation and entrepreneurial schools are increasingly taking a different approach, using systems known as project-based or inquiry-based learning as a fundamental form of pedagogical approach to teaching and learning. Originally pioneered in medical schools, project-based learning is a student-centered approach where students learn problem-solving skills, flexible thinking, collaborative skills, and self-direction through the process of solving real-world community problems together. In this model, professors connect the skills and content we want students to have with applications and tangible contributions to the communities in which they live. One scholar, Mockram, describes project-based learning as an approach to teaching which integrates knowing and doing. Students learn knowledge and elements of the core curricula, but also apply what they know to solve authentic problems and produce results that matter. Project-based learning refocuses education to the student, not the curriculum. A shift mandated by the global world which rewards intangible assets such as a student's creativity, drive, passion, empathy, and resiliency. These cannot be taught out of a textbook, but must be activated by experience. Another group of scholars, Bloomfield et al., stated that project-based learning is a comprehensive perspective focused on teaching by engaging students in investigation. Within this framework, students pursue solutions to non-trivial problems by asking and refining questions, debating ideas, making predictions, designing plans, collecting and analyzing data, and communicating their ideals and findings to others, and asking new questions. Why do we have so many illiterate adults? Why are there so many poor? Is the relationship between unemployment and lack of education associated with children? What can we do to break that cycle of poverty? Another definition posited in the literature suggests that the base of project-based learning lies in its authenticity in real-life applications to research. Real life. What's going on in Tivoli Garden today? Having students engaged in real-life work. How can we improve educational outcomes in Trenchtown or Chicago or New York City? Project-based learning works and asks students to work in teams and are given a driving question to respond or to answer and then present their knowledge in new and innovative ways such as writing or in art or in drawings or in 3D representations or in students producing videos or students taking photography of the circumstances and the environments in which they see and learn from. Lauren Davis describes inquiry-based learning, sometimes conflated with problem-based learning, as an approach which asks students to explore a question or an issue such as poverty or the effects of early child education on inner-city children in an in-depth way and ask further questions to gather knowledge. Project-based learning, inquiry-based learning problem-based learning, service-based learning are all fundamental ingredients to creatively disrupt the long-held classroom-based approach to higher education. And I will use that term often, creative disruption. And I'm going to associate entrepreneurship and innovation with creative disruption. They are linked inextricably. This is the first. Innovative teaching and learning is the first of what I would call my three legs of the stool of what I refer to as entrepreneurial education. Of the dozens of highly effective colleges and universities I've researched in the United States, the list of the top 40 colleges that change lives, all had a strange and a strong and overt emphasis on project-based and inquiry-based learning. My own institution, Clark University in the Boston area of Massachusetts, where I teach, is one of those top 40 colleges that change lives. As a direct reflection of its emphasis on conflating didactic classroom work with real-life, local, and global issues in all areas of academic study, not just business, not just psychology, in all areas. Here at UWI, the medical school perhaps, the business school perhaps, the School of Education perhaps. The very same can be witnessed here at the University of West Indies in the work undertaken by Professors Garner, Roberts, Williams, and Soros, and others at the UWI Consortium on Social Development and Research, conducting research and providing education within regional communities, or in your Office of Student Services and Development's various student exchange initiatives with a focus to improve on the method and strategies to student learning, and to facilitate an atmosphere that demonstrates an ethic of care. UWI's coursework in social entrepreneurship for sustainable development is another example of this university's desire to conflate classroom instruction with project-based learning. These are but a few examples of what this university, your university, is doing along with other innovative and entrepreneurial colleges and universities here in Jamaica and others like them around the world, that evident a new paradigm of teaching and learning. Closely aligned with an institution's culture of innovative teaching is the transformational leadership of an institution, witnessed by entrepreneurial educators and their commitment to a full engagement with the communities in which they live. Taking education now beyond the classroom and reinventing or relooking at the role of a university. So let me share now my thoughts on the second leg, community engagement through transformational leadership. It is the second of my posited three legs of entrepreneurial higher education. One expression of institutional leadership is in the area of community engagement and development. As schools of higher learning, we are all making decisions about how we're going to contribute resources in order to make this community a better place to work and live. It's a responsibility that extends from our campuses to far outside our gates. How are we going to draw the resources and opportunities to our community? How will we establish shared goals with local government, community leaders, formal and informal leaders, and private businesses and NGOs? And how will we accomplish those goals? Part of affecting positive, substantial social change is through community engagement. That is substantial and meaningful person-to-person community connection designed to make a difference in the lives of the urban and rural poor. Institutional community engagement takes a leap of faith oftentimes and requires transformational guidance and commitment by leaders in higher education. Community engagement extends, deepens, and broadens the student's learning experience associated with project-based learning. Community engagement is, in fact, a true institutional commitment to the economic, social, and environmental betterment of the societies in which the institution is a member of. Example of this here at UWI includes your own Change from Within initiative, assisting 40 local primary schools. The innovative cooking oil to biofuel joint UWI Youth Crime of Jamaica initiative, or the Mona School of Business and Management partnership with the private sector organization of Jamaica and Jamaicans United for Sustainable Development, or the team from UWI whose use of locally grown fruits and vegetables won them first place in the Opportunity Funding Corporation Innovation and Entrepreneurship contest held this past summer in Atlanta. First place, UWI. Community engagement means moving an institution and its assets, intellectual and material, beyond the relative safety of our campus to the mean streets and impoverished rural settings and urban settings of our society. I often talk to educators around the world about what schools can be for students generally. And I say this: it should be a time when our students are discovering things about themselves and shaping their own identities within the context of the school values. The school values. Our students should be given the opportunity to explore their interests and think about challenges in the world and those around them, and which problems they can try to solve with their own skills, talents, and individual insights. As they improve the world around them, they better themselves. It's all part of the same process. If a college or university culture is based upon engaging local urban issues, a role traditionally designated to the government and to the charitable sector, then students will in turn do the same. Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." Be the change you want to see in the world. And that change must start at our institutions of higher learning and not deferred to other places. If we as educators wish to change the world, we must challenge convention. The leap from the first leg of my entrepreneurial education stool, problem-based learning, to my second leg, meaningful institutional community engagement, requires profound nurturing and commitment by a new breed of higher educator, a transformational leader who asks him or herself, if not me, then who, and if not now, when? If not me, then who, and if not now, when? And faced with that question, the leader moves his or her institution into active commitment and engagement with local communities in need. Start a free primary school for poor urban children, as Clark University, my institution, has done. Open free walk-in community health clinics for the impoverished. Instigate the private business sector to launch, with your management students, a microfinance bank to begin new business development among the poorest of the poor in Jamaica, particularly among poor and undereducated women. Ignite honest and open dialogue with local and informal neighborhood leaders to discuss efforts to affect national government policy, to uplift the poor economically, to educate women, men, and children. Teach our students and public leaders the intractable connection between economic development and the benefits it renders to a stable social setting. Healthcare, education, good policing, good governance, and the need to improve our environment. Legitimate and genuine entrepreneurship is all about innovation, change, creative disruption, tenacity, leadership. It is my view that the old paradigm of higher education cloistered behind its campus and classroom walls have given way to a new perspective, a new covenant between students, teachers, and the community. The new paradigm must include meaningful, sustainable, institutional community engagement in all areas of academic study. So how can we do this? How can this be done? One way is to ask each institution separately to forge their own way forward. Act separately. It's one way. A better way, I believe, is through a transformational change in how colleges, universities, and other institutions collaborate together to solve social issues. On a regional basis, the University Consortium of Small Island States, composed of the University of Malta, Mauritius, University of South Pacific, Virgin Islands, and UWI, have come together to support certain regional issues, including sustainable capacity development and education. I applaud this approach. Here in Kingston, specifically, we have the University of Technology, University College of the Caribbean, the Microcredit University College, Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, the United Theological College of the West Indies, Canaan University, Northern Caribbean University, St. Michael's Theological College, Jamaica Theological Seminary, B&B University College, and perhaps others I'm not fully aware of. Is it too great a leap of faith to enjoin each of these institutions to form one grand Kingston consortium of colleges and universities as a means of focusing a united effort to enhance primary school education for children, micro-business development opportunities for poor women, primary health care screening and treatment, mental health services, ministerial counseling, family counseling, and other badly needed local health services intended to help transform and uplift our community. One of my greatest mentors, though I never met him, is Martin Luther King Jr. He said at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, in a very hot night, sweltering, a packed crowd, speaking to an audience, but in truth, he was speaking to America in that small church. He said, compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. Compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It becomes manifest when we change the edifices which have created the beggar in the first place. And what he was saying is, you can throw me pennies. You can throw me nickels. You can placate me with words. But until you change poverty in America and equal opportunity in America, the edifice of beggars will never, never go away. Entrepreneurial higher education becomes manifest in its commitment to community engagement and the passion and commitment to change an unsustainable status quo, that is poverty, lack of economic development, micro-business, healthcare issues, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, all of my research and personal hands-on work in 8 countries, developing countries, from Sierra Leone to Ghana to Liberia to Bangladesh to Guatemala to Haiti, all lead me to the same conclusions. We are more alike than we are disparate. And all roads lead to uplifting, and they begin with economic development. All of my research and personal hands-on work in many cultures and many communities around the world tell me that sustainable efforts to enhance urban or rural poor education for children or illiterate adults must first be conjoined with a basic economic development initiative. As with Maslow's hierarchy of need for our own personal lives, people first must have food to eat and a place for their children to live. Without that, little else compares. The third and final leg of my entrepreneurial higher education model discussed today involves asking ourselves as educators, what impact do we have on the world beyond our local community, and how do we understand and make change in a global society? Answering those questions is central to, or should be, an institution's educational mission in addressing basic economic opportunities for the poor in urban and rural settings. Addressing or looking beyond our campus and ahead to the 21st century and in countries that we have intercourse with is crucial. And we must promote it on our global campuses, here in Kingston and elsewhere. A global citizenship perspective is my positive third leg in my entrepreneurial higher education model, and is the third element which comprised and is common to all of the 40 colleges that change lives. Three tenets emerged: innovative teaching, community engagement, and a global citizenship perspective. It is in this final aspect that I am talking about a positive difference in the realms of sustainability, human rights, and social justice issues. Embracing our local social, economic, and environmental issues here in Kingston teaches us and our students how to reach into other environments. The world is increasingly interconnected. We can't any longer train students for what was. It's our charge to prepare them for what we believe the world is going to be. The American Council on Education posits that active engagement with the rest of the world has become fundamental to a higher quality education, one that prepares students and their communities for the larger world in which they live and work. Van Fleet and Withrop from the Center for Universal Education state that while basic skill development and workforce preparation skills are important in higher education, a paradigm shift must take place, recognizing that in order to be truly globally competitive, we must be globally competent. The challenges that face the world today, from global poverty and climate change to financial and system inequity and conflict, require globally minded solutions. Over the past decade, higher education has become more acutely aware of our global interconnection, and as such, we as leaders in higher education must respond by introducing a global perspective in all areas of academic study if we wish to truly provide our students an education worthy of our calling as educators. I want to refer you to Hans Schadl in his seminal work, The Practices of Global Citizenship, suggests several features of global citizenship. Global citizenship is a choice and a way of thinking. An entrepreneurial higher educator in a leadership position can move students to understand their relationship to the world. Global citizenship as self-awareness and awareness of others. We are not an island unto ourselves. We are connected. Global citizenship as students practice cultural empathy. The day when American imperialism went to Africa and said, "This is how you do it, guys," is long gone. Thank God. We need to educate our students to be culturally sensitive, culturally aware, and culturally appreciative of our differences and our likenesses. Global citizenship as a cultivation of principled decision-making. Global citizenship as a participation in the social and political life of one's community. A university education which does not provide effective tools and forums for students to think through their responsibilities and their rights as one of the 7 billion people today, several billions on planet Earth, and along the way develop their moral compass would be a failure. If we as higher educators, as universities, as seminaries, as theological institutions, as colleges, if we do not prepare our students for an awareness of their responsibilities as not only national citizens, but global citizenship, we are a failure because we are part of a much more connected world. To illustrate, let me share with you some examples of how I attempt to engage my social entrepreneurship students to the world greater than their local communities. And I'm going to run through these very quickly. Throughout all of our instruction at Clark, and certainly my instruction at Clark University, each year I take teams of students to different parts of the globe to understand the Millennium Development Goals, to understand culture, to understand the way people think, to understand different values, traditions, cultures, ways of believing, ways of expression. And in all of these experiences, in Ghana or Sierra Leone or Haiti or Kenya, just as I'm thinking of Kenya, I'm stuck on images that I have of Kibera. If you've not been to Eastern Africa, take a trip to Kibera. It's the largest slum in Eastern Africa, 1 million souls living in 1 square mile. It is unlike anything you could possibly imagine. And yet within that community, reside educators who bring students of 300 or 400 together. And I say educators broadly. I think of specifically Mary, an elderly woman with a club foot, the finest educator I've ever met. No education formally, but every day brings together 400 children in Kibera and teaches them as best she can and provides 1 meal. That's education. Or here in our first visit to Jamaica, when I was privileged to meet remarkable human beings, Lorna Stanley, Pastor Fletcher, our friends at WROC, at RISE, a woman named Miss Ritchie, who I began to adore and still adore, a very elderly woman with great elegance and grace. So I met so many wonderful people, and my students have met so many because we've made a decision to take the learning out of the classroom and become not only in service-based, but also then what do we do? See, when we go to a different country, or in the 8 countries that I work in, we don't just walk away. We ask, what can we do? How can we be helpful? In Sierra Leone, through the work of one of my companies, Seven Hills Global Outreach, and my students at Clark University, we've established health clinics for women, pre-birthing clinics, wells, toilets. In Ghana, we support through our microfund program 400 families that represent about 4,000 people in our first year. Next year, we'll be representing 500 families through our local partner. We do nothing directly, always through a local partner. Or in Kenya, through our educational efforts there, or in Guatemala in trying to uplift a whole community in the hills who are totally dependent upon coffee. The price of coffee worldwide has plummeted. So what new institutions of economic drive can we bring to that community? So these are experiences that we try to employ. So I don't want to stand here and just talk about what we do or what we might wish to do. I'm here to talk to you about what I know to be true, because I do it. The countries that we work in there are no five-star hotels. There are oftentimes little electricity. Jamaica is heaven. Let me add that with me today in our brief visit to Kingston, I have 4 former students from Clark University who have had or are experiencing a global citizenship perspective in their studies. Work done at UWI's Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies is a fine example of your institution's efforts toward inculcating a global citizenship perspective in your academic settings. To the best of its ability, UWI and other institutions here in Jamaica are attempting valiantly to address the sentiments of the Center for Internationalization and Global Engagement when they say, today, colleges and universities are asked to prepare tomorrow's citizens not for a single career, but for a life of unpredictable velocity and volatility. Simultaneously, they are asked to produce graduates who are capable of communication across borders and citizens who are invested with the capacity to navigate a transparent and permeable world. It is my hope, it is my belief that all of the institutions here in Kingston I mentioned earlier can embrace a global citizenship perspective in all areas of study in which they're engaged. So, innovative teaching and learning through project-based and inquiry-based learning, meaningful and sustainable community engagement through transformational institutional leadership, and a global citizenship perspective in all areas of academic instruction are what, drawn from my research on innovation and entrepreneurship in higher education, make for truly great institutions and whom exhibit an entrepreneurial approach to higher education. Let me digress a moment. The concept of entrepreneurship has evolved. We use that term lightly, too lightly sometimes. There are business people and then there are entrepreneurs, and they are not the same necessarily. There are good business people that run very good businesses, just as there are good nonprofit leaders that run very good nonprofits. They are not entrepreneurs, nor are they social entrepreneurs, necessarily. Let me explain. The concept of entrepreneurship has evolved over time from early 17th and 18th century France to the present. In the 19th century, Jean-Baptiste Say used the word entrepreneur to describe what he called venturesome individuals who stimulated progress by finding new and better ways of doing things. In the 20th century, Schumpeter further refined the concept by describing entrepreneurs as innovators who drive change, and noting that the function of entrepreneurs is to reform or revolutionize patterns. We're not talking about maintaining patterns. We're talking about change or revolutionize patterns. Drucker said that entrepreneurs sees an element of resourcefulness to the opportunity-oriented definition of Drucker. Stevenson said that the heart of entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled. Entrepreneurs in whatever field, including education, see and pursue opportunities that elude administrative managers. Much like business entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs seek out new models and techniques. They understand the future market needs, and they are driven by a creative force to create value. They are artists in the truest sense of the world. The model of entrepreneurial higher education I speak of today is a challenge to me, to you, to everyone, given the sacred honor of being called professor, to challenge convention in how we approach higher education and through what we can truly do to help change the world. So, some final thoughts. Vision can be viewed primarily in two ways: in its ability to see what is in front of you, and it's the power to look ahead and to see what will be, trying to discern the yet unknowable future. More than ever, I will be looking for new trends. You in this room will be seeking new ways of doing things. I look together to join with you in finding new ways of serving poor children, poor communities in Kingston. I look to you to lead us forward toward a new, more impactful vision of what higher education can be for our community and for our world. To that vision, let me suggest a practical, as was stated earlier yesterday by your registrar, profoundly wise woman. To that vision, let me suggest a practical, tangible approach for us all now here in Kingston. Create a Kingston consortium of colleges, universities, and seminaries. We have far too long in the United States, and certainly here in Jamaica, and in Africa, and in Europe where I work, we have this propensity to want to find a zero-sum game. If I win, my opponent loses. If my opponent wins, I must have lost. And I suggest to you, we must, as global citizens, reconceive that notion. There's too little time, too few resources, and too great a need to be selfish. And I say that very provocatively. It is time to join. What would this enjoyment do? Engage and enact key social programs yet unmet in the community. Free health clinics offered by UWI's medical school. There are so many children a mile from here, 2 miles from here, that don't have basic health care, have never seen a doctor. And yet, 500 yards from here, we have a medical school with some of the brightest minds in the world. Offer free tutoring to urban children by college students, which my university does. Let poor urban and rural children know that they can succeed. Our previous speaker this morning so eloquently talked about that. Give students the belief that they can succeed. Connect them. Give them courage. Mentor them. Bring college students into Tivoli Garden and help them teach children to read. And then perhaps one day, that child will say, I want to be like that. I want to go to college. And that becomes a viable option. Nobody can be another Bolt. No one can be another Michael Jordan. But yet urban children all over the world aspire to be just that. That's their hero. We need young mentors who are well educated to be the new heroes of our urban youth. Offer adult literacy programs offered to by education majors here at UWI. Not only uplift children in these local communities, uplift their families, give families pride. Technology literacy offered for the urban poor. Everywhere I travel in the world, everybody has a cell phone. In the most rural community, bush areas I'm in, there's somebody that has a cell phone. Children all over the world need technology training. Many here in Kingston don't yet have access. Why? That consortium can make it happen. Family and individual mental health services for the poor. A family breakup is often a product of lack of basic understanding, communicating. How do we teach young men how to talk to their wives, or young women to talk to their children, as Lorna so aptly described earlier? These are things this university, that consortium, and all the colleges and universities of Kingston can help address if you decide to come together as one unified entity and to do it. It's not a question of if or ability. It is not. It is not. It's a question of will. If not me, then who? Do you expect the government to do those things? How about USAID? China? America? No. None of them will do that. None. In any sustainable way whatsoever. You will. You have the capacity. So the question is not if, and it's not capacity, it's will. Second, create a coordination hub for the back office for local NGOs. In essence, create an NGO consortium. I see all over the world. I see here in Kingston so many wonderful people doing wonderful work, totally disparate, all with their own pieces of the pie, not wanting to collaborate. Again, a zero-sum approach. If I win, my opponent loses. My opponent wins, I must have lost. And I call upon NGOs through the resources available at this university consortium to expand their reach to more poor people by letting the universities take care of their bookkeeping, their IT infrastructure, their grant writing, to coordinate on this island human service efforts in one cohesive view, so that I'm not fighting with my neighbor down the street about some grant that the Chase Foundation may or may not give me or may or not give her. Coordinate care for the poor. The poor deserve that. We are dispensable. I run a large NGO, 3,900 people. My job is to make sure that that institution is maintained forever. It is not my job to make me feel good. I will pass away. Those poor people must be guaranteed a legacy. And so I look at the rich resources embodied within an institution like a college. And what could we do to help coordinate NGO work here in Kingston or here in Jamaica? Instigate a local NGO consortium, pooling resources and talent, provide financial accounting and other business supports, create pathways to partnership and collaboration, serve as an R&D, research and development, and grants application coordinating for local NGOs. Assess local NGO effectiveness. If they're not effective, why are they operating? I have no tolerance, none, for NGOs that take small, jealously held dollars and waste them. There is a poor child or a poor woman on the end waiting for some help, and local NGOs that are not effective should not be operating, in my opinion. This could also be done through the richness of a university setting because you have resources, capacity, and intellectual talent. And finally, establish a micro-business incubator and development center for the purpose of uplifting urban, under-resourced communities. and through that establish a Kingston Consortium microfinance fund. Yes, there are microfinance organizations. I'm going to suggest to you that until we address the basic economic opportunities for the poor in urban and rural settings, we can never fully meet the promises and challenges of underserved and under-resourced communities. That will never happen. We can wish it to happen. We can concentrate only on education or only health care or only the environment. But I will contend to you that we will never address, as Martin Luther King so eloquently said, you will never, ever eliminate poverty until you address the edifice which creates it. Economic development. This university, or better, a consortium of universities within 5 miles, can create and has the resources to pull together a micro-business incubator so that groups, teams, collections of women with an idea can come and receive small loans that they have to pay back. Training in how to run a business, mentorship in how to orchestrate their day-to-day marketing and advertising. I have seen microfinance work in Bangladesh, Ghana, Haiti, in every country that I expend my time. Women, particularly women, and why women? Because if women are uplifted economically, they uplift their children. And sadly, my experience has been, to my fellow men in the room, we tend to squander on drink, on fun, on other things. Women take care of our children. And so by allowing women from Tivoli Garden or Trenchtown or other parts of your community to have a business incubator for the poor, to uplift the poor, run by your students. You want to give students practical work and application? Let them run that. Let them be engaged in the communities. Let them work on starting your free health clinics and your mentorship and your teacher training and your assistance to young kids so that they can believe that colleges are part of their future. You have the capacity, you have the ability in a university setting. It's the will. Move beyond the didactic, as was asked for yesterday, into practical action and social change. And this is what we're talking about. I leave with you one final quote. Universities and colleges which simultaneously constitute preeminent international, national, and local institutions potentially represent by far the most powerful partners, anchors, and creative catalysts for change and improvement in the quality of life in cities and communities. For universities and colleges to fulfill their great potential and more effectively contribute to positive change in their communities, cities and rural areas, they will have to critically examine and change their organizational cultures and structures, which I am asking you to think about. I am asking a great thing. Change the way you perceive your culture and your structure and embed civic engagement across all components of your institutions. God bless our urban poor, God bless this conference, and God bless Jamaica. Thank you very much.
That was a serious challenge. I'm just going to allow for 2 questions. Still recovering from that challenge, and I think that's a challenge that we must really look into if we're going to see the kind of transformation that we want to see in this nation. But I want to give Professor Jordan just I would have asked 2 other questions, but I don't think it's appropriate at this time, having heard that challenge. But I want to give the members here just a chance to ask 2 questions.
To live up to your challenge, we have to eradicate our classes structure. Because out here, we have a thing that I have more money than you, I'm better than you. Oh, shoot. Okay, okay, sorry. How do we eradicate? Do you have any suggestions on how to eradicate our classes structure? Because that's the only way we will get people from universities, colleges, and so on to go into those poor areas because they believe that we're all equal.
Yeah,
How do you do this?
Yeah, and I go back to my second stool. It's going to require extraordinary institutional leadership and leaders. It can't be done otherwise. We have to go to our college presidents or chancellors or local leaders of education, our seminaries, and challenge them to change and get out of their comfort zone. We have to change inertia. We have to move and get transformational leaders, even in the classrooms, to take students out of the classrooms and into those communities. Bringing students even here to Jamaica is an important part of my job as an educator. You know, I'd much, you know, it would be very nice to be able to sit home and watch the Boston Red Sox win the World Series. I missed it. And that's okay. That's really okay. And so my answer to you is that we need a commitment by institutional leaders. And that takes courage. Courage.
Just to say that I have been empowered by your diction to us this morning. It takes quite a visionary to have that global insight that you have. And I'm now beginning to wonder, not only to wonder, but to find ways and means by which I can start just where I am in my small community. And I think that what you have said is a catalyst for the university right here and for the others to really do something, maybe in a small way that you have suggested. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you. I don't know if there are representatives from communities here as opposed to universities or academic settings. What we need to do is get off, in the US there's a phrase, get off of your high horse, meaning come back down to earth. We need to create less of a donor charity. I don't believe in charity, first of all. It's not sustainable. If someone is dying, yes, you provide charity. If a tsunami occurs in the world, yes, you provide immediate charity. The only thing that sustains that and improves that situation, however, though, is partnership. It is not charity. And so if you are not from a university here and you are representing a community, a poor community, my suggestion would be empower your community to come to a university and remind them that they are servants. Those in power have great responsibility to serve first. That is the fundamental aspect of servant leadership. Those imbued with great wealth or great or great privilege have great responsibility to those that do not. And you, as members of the community, have every right and honor and privilege to call upon institutions like universities to respond. And if they don't, you ask them a second time. And if they don't, you ask them a third time. And if this is a goal, a vision that you believe, that universities need to almost flip themselves from the inside out, if you believe that and you want it to occur, make it happen. Use the universities here in Kingston as your mechanism for community change. It will benefit the university students who are educated here because they will understand real-world issues. It will uplift the poor in the community, And through economic, my third recommendation, through economic empowerment, that is the only sustainable partnership you can create. Aid money, donations are not sustainable. Economic empowerment. You empower a woman and give her some money to live on. And perhaps as part of that bargain, you say to those women, and your responsibility is to pay back in time a little bit of this loan as a group, and you will promise that your child will attend school every day and do well. And with that, I will loan you money, and I will help you be successful in starting a business. How about that for a novel idea? You want to do that? Do it. If not me, then who? And if not now, then when?
We're going to take a break for 10 minutes, a coffee break. Just, I don't know if Professor Jordan could just say it in a minute. His organization, when he took over his organization, how they used to operate and how he transformed it. He made a comment that he doesn't believe in charity. And I think that propelled him in terms of what he did with his organization. So if you could just share that in a minute, and then we just go to coffee break right after.
There's one thing that I've become very sensitive to in my work. I'm very humbled by. The smartest people I've ever met, the most compassionate and empathetic people I've ever met are poor people. They're not the well-educated, they're not the rich. They are poor people. I have learned to be more of a human being sitting around a fire in the bush of Sierra Leone than I have at a conference at Harvard. And the one thing that I have been taught is that people from all over the world do not want to be felt or viewed as charity cases, because that makes me the big man and you the little person. People want partnerships. People want to look you in the eye, whether your skin is white, brown, black, or yellow. Doesn't matter. They want to know you're a human being, and they want a partner. They want a friend. And with that, you can create change. And so I don't give charity. I extend my hand in partnership. And we give what we can of what resources we have. And there are certain resources those that are more wealthy have, and that's money. I'm happy to do that if I know that I have a partner on the other end of that handshake. And so when I began growing Seven Hills, I began very strongly in a business-like approach, a social entrepreneurial approach. And so even though I have the Seven Hills Foundation, we have 11 companies underneath that have grown remarkably. I use many profit businesses to sustain our social ambition. For example, we own 1/2 of an architectural firm. What do I know about architecture? Nothing. It looks like a nice room to me. I don't care anything about architecture. I care about the money that architecture business can offer me that I can then support sex workers in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and their families. And if that gives me money, profit, that I can use on drug-addicted persons to change their lives, I'll do it. And we do that. We own 35% of I was talking to a remarkable woman last night at UTech on software development. We bought 35% of a software company in Chicago. What do I know about software? Not much. Ask my students. But I knew they could make money. And so we acquired this company, 35% of it, with the intent to grow it and flip it. We did just that. We invested in the company, we owned 35%, and in 3 years' time, we flipped it and made 5 multiple, meaning we made 5 times our investment. I invested $1 million US, I made $5 million US in 3 years. I took that money, and that's how we fund our work in Ghana or Kenya. That's how we provide services to poor people. That's our microloan program. We own 7% of an investment banking company, believe it or not. What do I know about investment banking? Not very much. But I know they're going to be making very much money soon. The intent is to grow the company and then sell it to Fidelity. Then we all become rich. And with that money, I can serve thousands more. That's called social entrepreneurship. And that's how I believe we should invest. And so I invest in Ghanaians, for example. I invest in them. I don't give them charity. I'm not interested in charity. I'm interested in partnership. And so when I go to Ghana and we walk among the fields of cassava and other products that they're growing in the fields, and I look and talk and shake hands and get into the dirt with those farmers, I've created a partnership with that farmer, and he doesn't look at me as this white guy that's coming over here and giving me money. He looks at me as his partner. I give you a loan, you produce your crop, you feed your family, you save money, and you pay me my loan back when you're ready. It's nothing to do with charity. It's partnership. And that's what I'm asking you to do here in Kingston. And I'm asking the NGOs to rethink how they work. And I'm asking the universities to act as the catalyst of that change.